Being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. My first guest and I were having a conversation off the air, so we appreciate your patience here, having some fun this morning as I was speaking with Dave Pasiak, and always good to talk to a friend. So we'll have plenty coming up here on the show today inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. We'll start off the broadcast in hour number one with Dave Pasiak. It is draft day, believe it or not. I can't even believe it. June 22nd, it is the NBA draft. And boy, does the NBA, as Dave had said it, and I've echoed these sentiments over the years, they've gotten it right. They have their playoffs end, and then right after that, we have the draft. And then right after the draft, we start to jump into training camps. And before you know it, in the summer, we're back to Summer League, and then we're back to the games in October. So it's really feels like the NBA is never off, and it's because they kind of aren't. So we'll talk about the draft today on draft day. We'll get into what some teams need. We'll talk about the Raptors. I want to hear what Dave thinks we need out there. They have lucky number 13, my grandfather's number. I've been seeing a lot of my birthday, October 21st, which I saw on a license plate. I've been seeing 1321 and 213, and now the Raptors have the 13th pick. And this is the 13th year that I'm covering the Jaguars, and I became a fan of both of them when they became teams in 95. So I feel like there's good energy. Something's coming. Hopefully positive stuff on the way with the 13th pick tonight. I'm just happy that the Raptors have a pick because typically they trade them away or they pick really late in the first or second round. The fact that they have a lottery pick gives me something to be excited about at the top half of tonight's draft. So very much looking forward to it. We'll speak on the draft. We'll speak on the NBA trade world and more with Dave Pasiak, longtime basketball coach and analyst who's out in Vermont coaching at the D3 level and just creating more and more opportunities for young men to grow on and off the court. And if you want to know the effect that Dave has had on the world, just look at the tree of wonderful student athletes that he's had, as well as assistant coaches and what they've become today. Hour number two is going to be spent with Papa Joe. PJ joins us inside of his normal stint on Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll be talking about the LIV and PGA merger. We'll also discuss Major League Baseball, horse racing, and the U.S. Open. A lot of great stuff coming up for golf, horse racing, and baseball in hour number two. And we're on the heels of Papa Joe's birthday, which was yesterday, June 21st. So we'll celebrate PJ's birthday and talk about our blessings and all that good stuff here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. So with that being said, let's jump into our first guest of our number one is going to take us through our number one, and that's Dave Pasiak. Mr. Pasiak, how we doing?
Doing great, Dan. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, and you know, it's DP and DT, which I always love to say that. So you and I were talking off the air about what happened in the NBA and how it was a little bit unique what went down. So Kristaps Porzingis going to the Celtics, and there's a three-team deal, but this was one of those, like, it was happening and then it wasn't happening and then it happened. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this and to give people some backstory. This is what went down. There's three teams that were involved. So the Celtics got Kristaps Porzingis from the Wizards, the number 25 pick tonight from the Grizzlies, and they also got the 2024 first-round pick, top four protected from the Warriors. The Grizzlies got Marcus Smart from the Celtics. That's it. So the Grizzlies just needing to be the other team, they got one player, Marcus Smart, and the Wizards ended up with Tyus Jones from the Grizzlies, Danilo Gallinari from the Celtics, Mike Muscala from the Celtics, and the number 35 pick tonight from the Celtics. So the Wizards get three players and a draft pick. The Grizzlies get Marcus Smart, and the Celtics, get some draft capital for this year and next year, and Kristaps Porzingis. What are your thoughts?
Well, Boston, I think, like we talked off the air, I think that, they're knocking at the door, and I think they kind of feel like they need to make an incremental move to get them to the next level, and go all in for a championship. I think it helps them front court wise. Al Horford's not getting any younger, and they've had some concerns. I'm trying to think one of the front court guys. I think Graham Williams is restricted free agent, so they got to make a decision with him. They really never got anything out of Gallinari, so I think the thing that really shakes Boston up is Marcus Smart was really an integral part of that team, and had kind of carved out his niche there. I like him. I mean, you don't get all, quite as much of the external stuff, but it's a little bit like Draymond Green with the Warriors or Dennis Rodman back in the day or something, where Marcus Smart kind of found his niche with that team and maybe is a better player in that fit in Boston, and he'll end up elsewhere. But, from Memphis' standpoint, I think they're looking at it as Smart's a versatile guy, and it gives him somebody in the short run to plug in until Morant gets off his suspension, and in the long run, he's a guy that can fill multiple roles for them. And then from the Wizards' standpoint, once they traded Bradley Beal a few days back, you could tell that they're in full rebuild mode. So they're looking to get out from Porzingis and get some draft capital, get out from his contract. So theoretically, I think it's a high-risk move for Boston, but it's a move that I think could pay dividends for all three teams.
Well, like you said, it's a high-risk move for Boston, but at the end of the day, I mean, it could work out in their favor to give themselves a different look. But to see Marcus Smart leave this team, and like you said, he had carved out a role there, what's he going to look like elsewhere? The question for me is, do you feel that it was the right like if you have to get rid of, not get rid of, but if you have to trade away somebody because you have to give something to that other team that's going to be a part of this, which was the Grizzlies, then essentially, of all the players they could have gotten rid of, was Marcus Smart the one that you would have chosen if you were sitting in that seat, or do you wish that they maybe went elsewhere?
Well, I mean, the team involved in the deal's got to get some value back too. Like the original deal, when the Clippers were involved instead of the Grizz, they were going to give up Brogdon, who was sixth man of the year.
Yeah.
So I think you're not. In deals in the NBA, there's also his salary's got to match and things like that. But you've got to make it worth a team like the Grizzlies. You got to make it worth their while. They're probably not making that deal if they put, Peyton Pritchard out there instead of Marcus Smart. You would think that the Grizzlies aren't going for a deal like that. So I think from a Boston standpoint, you got to look at it. You got to look at the net, and do they feel like? Obviously, they feel like adding Porzingis and subtracting Smart moves them closer to winning a championship. I think Porzingis is a terrific player. When he first came into the league with, at the Knicks and whatnot, his biggest thing has been he never really clicked in Dallas, which was surprising. When he went there, it seemed like that would be a good move. But he's another guy that you have a little bit of health concerns with him. But he's coming off a good year in Washington, and if he can bring that to Boston and kind of give them a legitimate third wheel with Tatum and with Brown, the Celtics obviously feel like that moves them closer to championship contention.
Well, and like you said, I mean, they got to give up something. They have to give up some type of value. But when you start to change what you put together in your formula in anticipation of making it somewhere. I mean, this is a Celtics team, you and I were talking about it off the air. This is a Celtics team that was getting somewhere, right? But they weren't getting there. They were getting almost there, but they weren't getting there. So is this the right time for them, in your opinion, to kind of shake it up a little bit and say, okay, we're gonna make some moves. We're going to let go of a couple players and kind of see where this goes. I mean, was this the right thing to do for the team that they have right now at the time right now? I know that time will tell, but looking at it right now from a strategic standpoint, did they have to make a strategic move at this point?
Well, I think in their minds, yes, and probably big picture, yes, because Denver's going to be around for a while. Phoenix just upgraded in their own conference. Philly is all hinged on what happens with James Harden. The Bucks have, they have to figure out the whole thing with Middleton and whatnot. But, I think the Celtics, they needed that. They needed to add to the front court, and I also think they had a little bit of a logjam at guard. So that's why they were originally considered moving Brogdon and ultimately settled on moving Smart. So I think, on the one hand, you can say you can run it back with the same team. You got to the conference finals this year and the NBA finals a year ago and run it back. But, I think championship caliber teams, they're always looking to upgrade and always looking to make that incremental tweak. And, just by the numbers, you added a guy in Porzingis that's going to get you, if he can come close to what he did in Washington, he's going to get you double the numbers that Marcus Smart was getting you in terms of scoring and rebounding and whatnot, and give them a little bit more balance. So I think they feel like that it'll help them match up a little bit better, with their prime contenders in the East, like the Sixers and the Bucks, and Cleveland's on the rise in the mix a little bit. And I think big picture, they feel like it helps them match up with Denver should they get that far.
Yeah, and I like that. Obviously a good point to bring in Porzingis so that you can have better matchup opportunities for what you expect or anticipate to be your upcoming potential adversaries in the playoffs. So other moves have been made prior to the draft tonight. Now, obviously it's here. We're live Thursday, June 22nd. The draft is in just a few hours. On June 9th, the Thunder traded away, the Thunder got a 2029 first-round pick, and the Nuggets got a 2023 second-round pick at number 37, 2024 first round, and a 2024 second round. I don't know if I really understand what the Oklahoma City Thunder were doing here. So, but they gave up a bunch of picks so that they could have a first-round pick in 2029, and then the Wizards and the Suns had a little deal here, and as Dave was saying, he believes the Suns have upgraded. The Wizards get Chris Paul and Landry Shamet and multiple second-round picks, as well as multiple pick swaps. The Suns get Bradley Beal, Jordan Goodwin, and Isaiah Todd. So the Suns are bringing in some talent. Obviously, Bradley Beal is someone that you bring in to win now and give yourself a few years. Talented guy who's been up in talks over the last couple of years. You hear his name. So Bradley Beal going to join Kevin Durant and the team out in Phoenix, and Chris Paul moves once again. The Nuggets have a trade with the Pacers where the Nuggets get the 2023 first-round pick tonight at 29. They get a second-round pick at 32, so they're going to be picking twice in just a few picks. And the Pacers get the 2023 second-round pick 40 right in between those, and a 2024 first-round pick. So the Nuggets now have gained the number 29 pick, the number 32 pick, and the number 37 pick tonight. So in two different trades with the Pacers and with the Thunder. So Dave, I'd love to get your thoughts on the Denver Nuggets, NBA champion Denver Nuggets that now have a ton of draft capital. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the moves they made there, as well as Phoenix and Washington.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because Denver, they picked late. It'll be interesting to see they've accumulated picks. Now if they're going to try to flip them from one pick to move up or not. That'll be interesting to see if that's their last move, or if if they've got another move on top of that. I think they're defending champs, and they're going to come in the next season as the favorite. But again, good teams in the NBA, they usually don't stand pat. They're still trying to upgrade, trying to make incremental moves to stay ahead of everybody else. And the other thing in the NBA is, the cap management is so important. And teams are trying to avoid the luxury tax, and so a lot of times these moves that you see with draft picks swapping one year for another and whatnot, a lot of times they're intertwined with the team's cap management and when they want to take on a rookie contract. Like the contracts are slotted, so it's not like there's negotiation really in the NBA with first round picks. They're guaranteed, and what they're making is basically slotted. But the bigger thing is, when do they become a restricted free agent? When do they become an unrestricted free agent? So teams are trying to manage their cap several years into the future. So a lot of times the pick swaps and whatnot have to do with that too.
Well, yeah, and looking at this, speaking here with Dave Pasiak this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life on NBA Draft Day. Speaking here with good friend and longtime basketball head coach and analyst Dave Pasiak. So as we look at the order now, number 1 overall pick, San Antonio. This is how the lottery goes, 1 through 14, mind you, folks. And so 1 through 14, San Antonio, Charlotte, Portland, Houston, Detroit, Orlando, Indiana, Washington, Utah, Dallas, Orlando again. So they have 6 and 11. And then we have Oklahoma City, Toronto, my Raptors, and New Orleans. After that, the rest of the first round is Atlanta, Utah gets to pick again, Lakers, Miami, Golden State, Houston. Brooklyn has back-to-back picks at 21 and 22. Portland picks again at 23. Sacramento at 24. Boston does not have their first pick of the night until 25. Then Indiana at 26. Charlotte will pick again at 27 after picking at 2. Utah, who we see plenty of times here, we see them at the 9th pick, the 16th pick. They will have a third first-round pick at 28. Then Denver will pick at 29, the Clippers at 30. And when we get into round number 2, we have Detroit. Denver will pick yet again. San Antonio, Charlotte will have their 4th pick of the night. Washington, Orlando goes again. Denver, so as we talked about, Denver, who just won the championship in the NBA, has picked 29, 32, and 37. Indiana will go. Charlotte's 5th pick will be at 41. They could literally create half their roster off of tonight if it works. And then they have Washington, Portland, San Antonio, Memphis, Atlanta, Lakers, Clippers are back-to-back. Cleveland, Oklahoma City. So we don't see Cleveland come on the board here for a draft pick until pick number 49. And then Brooklyn will pick again at 51, Phoenix at 52. Minnesota's first pick of the night will be at 53, which is very atypical of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Typically, you'll see them more on the top of this draft. Then Sacramento, Indiana, Memphis. Chicago has forfeited the 57th pick. Philadelphia has forfeited the 58th pick. So Washington and Milwaukee will round it out. Instead of 60 picks, there will be 58 this year. So your Philadelphia 76ers, Dave, unless they do something, are not going to be drafting tonight at all. Charlotte's going to be drafting 5 times. What are your thoughts on some of these storylines that are in here?
Well, like the Sixers, it's kind of like the anti-process now. He was there, used to trade all the good players to accumulate more and more draft picks. Now they've kind of gone all in the last couple of years, trying to win now, and as a result, their draft capital has been really limited. So I think like Charlotte, that's a team that probably is looking for a lot of draft capital. Change in ownership, team kind of cratered this year. They've already got the number 2 pick in the draft and a bunch of things down below it. So, second round picks in the draft, it's a weird thing. You see Denver drafting Jokic and turns out to be the MVP. Ginobili was a second round pick years ago. There have been second round picks that have turned into all-star caliber players. But the thing with the second round is those are not guaranteed contracts. So,
right.
If you're a player, you're almost better off not getting drafted sometimes than getting picked in the second round, especially late second round. Because if you're undrafted, you can sign as a free agent wherever you think you have the best opportunity to catch on. If you're picked in the second round, you're kind of locked in with that team until they decide to let you go. Or, the two-way contracts with the G League have allowed more second-round guys to stick around in recent years. But, and everybody's, like with the success Jokic has had and everything, everybody's looking to strike gold with those picks. But in reality, very few of those guys ever make an NBA roster or have an impact on an NBA roster. First round pick, like the difference between getting picked 30 at the end of the first round and 31 at the start of the second round is substantial, because the first round pick, it's a guaranteed contract, slotted salary, and the team has an investment in you for at least the length of that rookie contract. So I think once you get to the second round, it's more like speculating and hoping to strike gold.
Well, and do you want to see a change to the NBA draft in the sense of this is where, and I know there's a lot of what I say, it's going to say, okay, well then what about this? But I want to have the conversation, and isn't that the point of, okay, so we're in the NBA, there's 60 picks. This year there's 58 because Chicago, like I said, is forfeiting the 57th pick, and we know that the 58th pick is being forfeited by your Philadelphia 76ers. So those picks are forfeited. There's 58 picks. Now, you have D1 players, D2 players, D3 players, JUCO players, international players, some players that are in the G League. Everybody's trying to make it in the draft, right? And in Division 1 alone, you have guys that are year 1 guys, year 2 guys, year 3 guys, year 4 guys. So you could have about, 3,000-4,000 players trying to make 58 spots tonight. And only the first round is guaranteed money. So my question to you, Dave, is kind of twofold. Do we give guaranteed money to the second round? Because it almost feels like there's so little picks for the thousands of players coming out. Typically there's 60 picks. This year there's 58. So there's such a tiny, small, minuscule fraction that are going to get drafted. And half of those players, pretty much, have no guaranteed money. And like you said, you almost don't want to get drafted in the second round and just like go to free agency and play on a summer league team. So do we need to guarantee money in the second round so that it means something? Because it's so hard to get drafted, and then you get drafted, and then it's like, well, what does it even mean to get drafted in the second round? So do we guarantee money to the second round, and do we expand NBA rosters so that we can expand draft spots? Because the more international players and G League players and everything with, the fact that you can just play basketball for a year and then come right over. I mean, that rule is still in place. So with so many people trying to make so little spots, is it time for us to guarantee second round money? And is it time for us to maybe look at carrying more players on an NBA roster?
Yeah, I think the guaranteed second round money is going to be a hard sell for teams. I think what you're more likely to see is expansion, like more investment in the G League, and more expansion of the two-way contract concept, and using the G League. I think you'll see that become, or could see that become, more of a legitimate farm system, where teams, they already stashed players and signed the G League contracts with, but I think with the two, you'll see more two-way contracts, which will make it, make it easier for, players to come up on short notice, fill a need, fill a gap, and maybe, use that to carve out a bigger niche with, with an NBA team. But it doesn't seem like there's much appetite, at least from what you read and what you hear, to guarantee second round contracts. Because, like I said, in reality, the majority of those guys won't make an NBA roster. So, I think more likely what you would see is more guys on a two-way.
Do you look at expanding rosters at all?
Man, I don't know if you need to. Take a look at like your typical NBA roster. Once you get past about 9, 10, 11. There's a lot of guys that are on rosters, EMP, coach's decision, and all that. Rosters are already big enough so that a team like Miami can carry you down as Haslam as basically a player, coach, locker room leader, and he's never going to play. So I think that I'm sure that the players would love to have roster expansion and guaranteed contracts for second rounders and all that kind of thing. It doesn't seem like there's tremendous amount of appetite for that in the NBA right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's so hard, right? And you have to have the right people around you, and to give you the advice on, okay, this is the year that you go out, or this isn't, and everything. I mean, it's not foolproof, and there's a chance that it could work. There's a chance that it won't. But I think it's because I'm so close to it, and and to a lot of these players that I've come to know over the years, they were told, hey, after your first year, after your second year, you need to leave. You need to go to the NBA. You're going to be a lottery pick. You're going to be a first round pick. And I just remember being like, no, I mean, I don't think this guy is. I think maybe he could be, and then it falls off and it doesn't work. And then the guys disappear. And, Dave, I think the thing for me is I'm trying to find the answer, because I've seen people that I personally know get fed the wrong information, and they think they're going to be some top NBA prospect, and then they never make it to the NBA, or they make a few two-way contracts and that's it, and they don't have the career that they were kind of told they were going to have. And so is there something you would like to see change? Do we change the 1 year rule? Is there something that we can do to help? Because I think a lot of players, by agents and by other people, maybe their families, whatever, it's different for each person, but every year someone gets fed the wrong information. And those guys go from being a top college prospect and just an awesome player in the NCAA tournament to being somebody who's back in their same neighborhood that they grew up in their same circumstance a couple years after going to college, and they don't have a college degree. So is there something we can do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a multi-layered. You've cut into a lot of different things with that. I think in terms of, if you're talking strictly leaving college and going in the draft, I think they've made some really good moves from, as far as a player standpoint. You look at like Mintz and Gerard and whatnot. They put their name in a draft. They go to draft camp. They get realistic assessment from NBA people, from pro people, about this is where you're likely to fall. This is what you need to get better at to have a chance to play in the league. And then they go back to college based on the feedback they got. That avenue wasn't available to players not that long ago. So I think, that change in the system, I think, has been a net plus for players. It's a funny thing, like in the NBA, like a lot of other things, is somewhat of a copycat league. And, there was for a long period of time, there was international players at the top of the draft. And that the pendulum kind of swung the other way in recent years, where you had the one and done college guys dominate the top of the draft. Well, now it's like, the college guys, maybe not so much right at the very top. You get right at the top with, Wembanyama. But then, you've got G League guys, you got overtime elite guys, international players that are, forecast to go high in the draft. And if you look at, and again, the draft projections to me beyond the first few picks are kind of crazy, because it only takes one move that's like out of the box, and the whole projection board gets thrown out of whack and it's worthless. So, but I think in terms of like the guys that they forecast to go high, you look at it like, Jaquez from UCLA is really the only college senior that's looks like a fairly certain first-round NBA pick. All the college guys are freshmen with the occasional sophomore. It's the one-and-done guy. So, like, to your question, and I'm a little bit surprised that this got left on the table. I am and I'm not. Like, you know, the latest negotiations between the league and the players union, a lot of people thought that they were going to get rid of one and done and just it was going to go back to the way it used to be, where guys out of college or guys out of high school could go right in the draft, and that didn't happen. So and it's a funny system because a European guy can get into the league quicker than an American-born high school player. But you know, I think that, I mean, I guess we live in how do I put this? We live in a free country. So, like, these guys, you know, young people and everything, they've got the freedom to make a bad decision, I guess is the way I put it, or a good decision. And I think, you know, the best avenue for them is just arming themselves with information and surrounding themselves with, you know, people that they can trust versus people that tell them what they want to hear, because those things are not necessarily the same. You know, I think there's high-profile college guys, the Cal Perrys of the world. I mean, he'll tell a guy, it's time for you to come out, time for you to go out, time for you to go in the draft, don't come back. You know, there's other like high-profile college guys that are, you know, will tell guys that. You know, Boeheim told Carmelo, you know, no reason for you to come back. So I think arming yourself with information and people that will talk to you straight instead of telling you what you want to hear is the best thing that the young players have going for them.
You know, and like you said, people, I mean, they make decisions. And the unfortunate part of it, I mean, we can all make decisions. We can all put ourselves in a situation. I mean, that's life, right? You make a decision, there's a crossroad, you know, there's a consequence. You make this decision, this could happen. You make this decision, this can happen. There's all those lines that come off of that one decision that you make, and then those lines have lines. So it kind of breaks into those timelines, right? When you see the multiverse of Marvel, kind of like that. You see these branches kind of breaking off of decisions that we make. And people are free to make the decisions they want to make in this country. There's a thing that's supposed to be called freedom. And so you have the freedom to make decisions. I just feel bad when you get to know, because, you know, a lot of fans, they're not getting to know these players. They're not around them. They're not talking to them. They don't meet their families. They're not seeing them when they go from a guy who's on the bottom of the roster, doesn't play, to being a starter in the NCAA tournament. And so, you know, I feel for because, you know, they say, well, the kids are getting a free education and they got NIL and they got this and that. Yeah, okay. They got a lot of perks. They got a lot of cool stuff that happens for them. And if they go to the, you know, if you're a football player, you go to a bowl game, you get a big old grab bag, a lot of fun stuff happens. But at the same time, it's the rest of these people's lives, you know? And if you don't have the right people around you and you're fed the wrong information and you believe it, which could happen in any walk of life, in any profession, you know, we could see things not work out. And that's something that I find to be really tough. And so on draft night, I'm excited, Dave. But at the same time, it's just weird to me because I guess from your perspective and what we've talked about, do you watch pick 1 through 30 and then shut it off? Because the second round isn't guaranteed. It's like, why don't we just have a first round and that's it? I mean, do you just watch the first round and say, okay, you know, that the second round isn't guaranteed money, there's no reason to watch it? I mean, how do you watch the draft?
Well, it's interesting. If you watch the coverage most years, the coverage you'll even get spotty a little bit in the second round from the standpoint of, like, the first round, they're giving you every pick live and, you know, interviewing they come up, shake hands with the commissioner and all that. You know, second round goes to the deputy commissioner, the picks come faster, and you'll see on the draft coverage, they won't even give you every pick as it happens necessarily, or it'll be a pop-up on your screen instead of announcing it live, because they're catching up on, like, the later first-round picks, and you don't even see the draft coverage focus nearly the attention on the second-round picks that you do the first-round picks. You know, way back when the NBA draft used to be, I think it was 7 rounds. And they chopped it down to 2 quite a while back. I think you can make the argument that maybe it should only be 1 round and everybody else should be a free agent. Getting back to, like, you see the kids in the draft room, and like, it's really, it tugs on emotions because, you at the one end, you're seeing guys get their names called, they go up there, they put the hat on, they shake hands with the commissioner, and it's life-changing, and it's basically, they've reached the pinnacle of basketball as far as they're going to play in the NBA. But then you always see the guy that, like, he's in the green room and he doesn't get picked. And, you see it in the NFL draft a lot too. And then, they don't get picked in the first round, and the cameras around them agonizing all night. So, so there's a lot of human emotion there. And I think the reason fans get so wrapped up in the draft, or it was NBA draft or NFL draft or college signing day, nothing sells like hope. So fans love the draft and, whatnot. And, you'll see nobody's going to get an F in their draft grade in all likelihood. And everybody's, team is going to come out and, their fan base is going to talk about why this is the move that's going to change the course of the franchise and all that. Like, nothing sells like hope. I mean, it's, kind of the same way, with major college recruiting and everything. So I think that's why drafts in the various sports can, garner the attention they do.
Yeah. So, I mean, here we are. It's draft night. Before I let you go, Dave Pasiak hanging out with us, longtime basketball coach and analyst, and out there with the Hornets in Vermont. And definitely appreciate the work that Dave has done and all the work that he's done with his student athletes over time, as well as his assistant coaches, and getting to meet them and seeing them go on to be successful is really incredible. So, team needs. Let's go to the draft lottery. Picks 1 through 14. You don't have to tell me the person, but you can if you want. But let's talk about what these teams need, because there's some teams that aren't drafting, like your Philadelphia 76ers, and there's some teams like Charlotte that are drafting the majority of the draft, it feels like. So to go through 1 through 14, team needs kind of what you see in the draft lottery, because I think that that's really, if we're going to get some people to really dive in that maybe aren't NBA fans or they don't watch the draft every year or whatever, we may get those fans that are like, hey, I'll watch the lottery because my team's in the lottery. So bring me into the lottery and what you think, and if there's any other number 1 pick than Victor Wembanyama at number 1 to the Spurs.
Oh, that's a given. He's going to the Spurs, number 1. I saw something about, like, there was a column, somebody posted a column in the last couple of days about, here's a draft scenario for every pick, including number 1. There's no chance that San Antonio is trading out of that spot. He's, for better or for worse, the guy's been built up as the top prospect to come into the league since LeBron James. So, he's going number 1, and San Antonio is keeping the pick. It's as simple as that. That's a given.
And then as we go from there, any thoughts you have on the lottery and some of these team needs, or what your take is in the lottery world, because that's, I think, the prime focus that most people have. If they're going to not be in tune with the whole draft, they're going to be in tune at least with the lottery.
Yeah, I think, assuming you don't see any, earth-shaking deals come down tonight. I think Charlotte, they're a team that's in full rebuild. So, looks like they're going to go for either Miller or Henderson as being a cornerstone guy. It's like the draft, and Portland, I think, kind of how things play out with Lillard. Assuming Lillard stays in Portland, they're, do they start to, they're in a little bit of a rebuild, but they're not in a full rebuild as long as the team is built around Lillard. So, I think what they got to be looking for is, equipping, if Lillard's going to stay with the Blazers, they've got an opportunity to put a legitimate second, elite piece next to him. Then when you get down to like Houston, Detroit, Orlando, to an extent, like I think those are teams like Detroit's got a really good young roster, and I think that's a team that has a chance. And Houston also. I think those two teams picking at 4 and 5, I think they have a chance to potentially make a significant jump and add to their core. Orlando is maybe not quite far along at number 6, but again, I think they're a team that's in the right direction. Indiana they've kind of gone into rebuild mode, but they're in a little bit of NBA purgatory. They got a good, kind of guy to build around in Halliburton, and again, they're trying to put pieces with him. Washington picking next, full rebuild. Utah's a team that, like, they're in danger of NBA purgatory too, to where they were a little better. Looked like they were going rebuild a little bit better than people thought most of last year. Probably a team that is looking to make a move to get them back into contention, I would think. And then then you go to number 10 with Dallas. I think Dallas, the top 10 picks, Dallas is the one team that they cratered last year after they made the Irving deal, which backfired on them. But I think they're a team that if they can get some front court help, and you still got Doncic and presumably Irving, although who knows whether he'll be back or not. But if he stays in Dallas, that's a team out of the top 10 picks that I think is closest to contention. So it could be, they want to pick a guy that's going to be impact, like ready to play now, versus some of the teams in the rebuild mode can be a little bit more patient with development.
My Toronto Raptors at 13, Dave. We look at the current roster. Here we are once again. I felt like we were just here recently, but Fred VanVleet, unrestricted free agent. And then also Jakob Poeltl, and they have the opportunity to keep him, which I think they will since they traded for him. They had him. They brought him in, drafted him, let him go to the Spurs, traded back for him this past season. So I'd imagine he's coming back. VanVleet, an unrestricted free agent. Those are the two, names here that you really focus in on. And then there's a couple other guys that could be unrestricted this year. Like Barton is unrestricted, and so there's that. And then restricted is Banton. And so outside of that, though, most of the team is in for, and then Ron Harper Jr. is a restricted free agent for 2023. But outside of that, everybody, 2024 is going to be a big year. Thaddeus Young, Gary Trent, Pascal Siakam, Otto Porter Jr., all those guys are unrestricted free agents unless there's new contracts. So, Siakam, we hear about trade. We hear he could stay. He'd be great trade bait. At the same time, he's the best player on the team. So what do you think about Toronto and what they do at 13, since they haven't been in the lottery in a long time?
Yeah, I mean, they're another team that, like, is kind of hovering around basketball purgatory. They're, like, good, they're not bad enough to get, unless the ping pong balls fall their way, they're not bad enough to get, like, a top 2 or 3 pick, but they're not, like, good enough to contend either. What VanVleet does, I think, is, what they choose to do with him, or if they choose to try to bring him back. And I think they've got some guys that they've got to make some extension decisions on, like Siakam and Anunoby and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think that they've got to kind of figure out where they want to go as a franchise, and do they want to do what Washington just did and start moving assets to to build up draft capital and create cap space and whatnot, or do they think they can kind of get themselves back into contention by making more incremental moves? Historically, I mean, that's a franchise that hasn't gone into the full rebuild mode. Like, they've tried to make the incremental moves to stay relevant and stay competitive. So,
yeah.
If they go that route, then at 13, probably looking for a guy. Like, if they lose Van Vliet, you need to kind of fill that void, or if they try to move one of their other core guys. They're a team that, like, it's tough to get a read on the direction you want to go right now with their franchise. And I think, the off season is really going to bring that into focus a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at it, this is the thing that makes me sad, okay? And it's something that you feel like and then you go back and you look at the history and you're like, oh my gosh, I was right and I didn't want to be right. And that is okay. So LeBron came into the league when? 2003. He's still in the league. Carmelo just retired, 20 years after winning a championship with Syracuse. So in that time period, the draft picks that the Toronto Raptors have picked up, you look at these guys, Rafael Arroyo, not on the team anymore, 2004. Pape Sal, same thing in 2004. 2005, Charlie Villanueva, Joey Graham, and so on and so forth. 2006, Bargnani and PJ Tucker, both not on the team anymore. Protezis in 2007, Nathan Jawai in 2008. I mean, guys that you don't even hear of. DeMar DeRozan in 2009. 2010, Ed Davis and Solomon Alibi not on the team. Jonas Valanciunas, 2011, not on the team. 2012, Terrence Ross, Quincy EC, not on the team. Bruno was in 2014. DeAndre Daniels, not on the team. Norman Powell in 2015. DeLon Wright, not on the team. 2016, Jakob Petel, who I talked about, pick number 9, and Pascal Siakam, pick number 27. They're both still on the team. OG in 2017, still on the team. 2018, they didn't have any selections. 2019, Dewan Hernandez. 2020, Malachi Flynn and Jalen Harris. 2021 with Scotty Barnes, Delano Banton, who I spoke about, and David Johnson. And then last year, Christian Coloco. So, I mean, you look back from 2004 to now, and you say, outside of Norman Powell, who was a good guy coming off the bench who isn't on the team anymore, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Petel, and OG Anunoby, I mean, those are the guys. And Scotty Barnes, will see what he can be, as he was picked number 4 overall in 2021. But, I mean, Dave, I think what I'm trying to say, I know what I'm trying to say, is from the time that LeBron James came into the league until now, the Raptors have made me really sad on draft day, is what I'm essentially trying to say. It hasn't worked out more often than not.
That's true, but I mean, you mentioned DeRozan was in there. DeRozan was an all-star player, so I mean, you got to say that was a good pick, right?
Yeah.
And then they kind of made up for it by finding a guy like Van Vliet as an undrafted free agent that's turned into a high-level player in the league. So, that it would be interesting to kind of compare them to the league-wide norm. My sense is they haven't killed it in the draft, but they're probably hovering somewhere around the league-wide average as far as hit or miss in the draft. Going back to the nothing sells like hope, and on draft night everybody looks like a genius, but a couple of years out, doesn't always work out that way. So, I don't think Toronto's been horrible in the draft, but like I said, they're probably floating around the league-wide norm, and I don't believe they've had like a top 2 or 3 pick in here either. So they're not necessarily getting this, the surefire can't miss guys, and even those guys miss once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, when you break it down, you say, okay, like what pick did they have and what this, what that. It's more of, and right, DeMar DeRozan, good player. Norman Powell has found longevity in the NBA as well. So it's not that they haven't made some good picks. It's more of the argument of who's still on the team, who's still in the NBA. And, if Siakam is gone, or they trade, somebody of this group, which Petal I would imagine is going to stay because they just traded for him. And they lost their 44th overall pick tonight to the Spurs because of that trade, or else they'd be picking in the first and second round. When we look at Toronto and OG and Siakam, Are they looking to move these guys? Are they looking to say, hey, if you're going to move Siakam, to me, I want like a player or two and a draft picker. Like I want two young players that are somewhat proven and a draft pick, or I want 3 draft picks and a player. I don't want to mess around with this. If you're even going to think about trading Siakam, I want massive capital. Now OG, maybe they could do him for, a pick now and a pick later, or OG for somebody straight up and a pick or something like that. But I mean, if honestly, as a Toronto fan and my love for this team, I wouldn't trade either one of them. But if there's a big enough market for Siakam, which I would love to see what they're being offered, then I would entertain it because I know they need more pieces. But I came into last season saying I think they need a piece, and then I was like, I think they need 2 pieces. And as the season went on, and now I'm looking at this team going, okay, they really need to hit it with the 13th pick, and Scotty Barnes needs to hold his own, and then they got to be advantageous. My problem with the Raptors is that historically they're not advantageous. They're typically losing players in big blockbuster trades rather than gaining. They're losing the Vince Carters and the Tracy McGrady's and the Damon Stoudemires, and they're not really getting anything for them where you sit back and go, oh, okay, yeah, that was great, except for the trade between DeMar DeRozan and Kawhi Leonard, which obviously led to a championship. That trade was great, but more often than not, the Raptors are trading away really good talent, and what they're bringing in doesn't pay off dividends down the road, except for that Kawhi Leonard trade, which, people would say, okay, Dan, well, that paid off in a championship. I get that. But I want the Raptors to be relevant. I don't want them to be in purgatory. I want them to be a team that can make it far. I think Boston is ahead of them. I think Philadelphia, depending on what they do from here, and Nick Nurse has obviously proven he can coach. They could be ahead of them. I think Miami is ahead of them. So I think they have some work to do in the Eastern Conference alone. And it's just, I find myself in these drafts sitting here when it comes to Toronto, and 9 times out of 10 in recent history when they draft somebody, I go, who? And I don't want to do that anymore. Now, all the mock drafts I've seen, Dave, are going after a guard. And that could be in preparation of Van Vliet, or if they keep Van Vliet, it could be an opportunity for them to provide for him something he hasn't had in a while, which is help. So, I mean, I would love to see Van Vliet stay. Love that he's from Wichita State. Big fan of the Shockers. And so I would love to see him and somebody that can finally take some pressure off of him, because I don't think the team is going to succeed with him having to put everything on his plate. But, I mean, outside of the DeMar DeRozan Kawhi Leonard trade, I see those Damon Stoudemire gives me twitches, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter trades, and obviously Chris Bosh wasn't. I don't think Chris Bosh would ever win a championship by himself, but letting go of these players it's hard to see. And the DeMar DeRozan thing for me was heartbreaking because I like DeMar, but I'll be a Kawhi Leonard fan forever. And I was asked that, like, do you still like Kawhi because he stayed for a season and he left? And I said, absolutely. He didn't disrespect Toronto. He let them have their piece. He listened to what they had to say. From everything that I've read and understood, he gave them an opportunity. So Kawhi, to me, will always be one of the greatest Raptors, and he will always be someone I respect and appreciate in the game for all that he's done, barring him doing anything crazy. And Ja Morant, a lot of people like him. Now, maybe they don't. So, but I think what I'm really getting at, Dave, is they struck once in a trade, but a lot of times I think the other teams are striking. And in a lot of recent drafts, it's been kind of like, well, who are these people? So, and if they lose one of those guys of the 3 that remain, what does that say from here on out? So really, I just want to see Toronto strike gold, hopefully, and get something in with this 13th pick that's going to pay off. And I know you said hope sells, and it's rolling the dice, and it's a long-winded response, but I've seen Toronto make a lot of moves that haven't worked out, and I'd like to see one that does this time around.
Yeah, they've really got to determine what the direction they want to go in over the next few years. Like, You know, are they going to make a big effort to re-sign Van Vliet? Are they going to move Siakam or move, you know, if they move on from those guys, that's a pretty clear indicator that they're going full rebuild. You know, if they try to, you know, if they bring back Van Vliet and hit big in the draft, you know, they can get themselves back into relevancy and contention in the East fairly quickly. You know, do they have enough to compete with Boston and Philly and Milwaukee and even Cleveland and the Knicks? I would say not. And Miami would be the other one I throw in there. Like, are they in the mix with those top 6 or 7 teams? They're a couple of moves away from that. So, I mean, how are they going to get there? Are they going to blow it all up and start over, or are they going to try to, you know, historically they've been a franchise that's tried to make the incremental move. So that would be my guess, the direction they go in.
Yeah. So we shall see tonight, 13th pick. My grandfather's lucky number, my favorite team. I'll be watching, Dave will be watching, and we will have plenty to talk about coming off the draft. Dave, as always, I appreciate you. I thank you. And if you text me tonight around the 13th pick, just remember that we're friends and remember to be nice.
So, you guys will be fun. So good to talk to you as always, Dan.
All right, Dave, take care. I'll talk with you soon.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.
Take care. That coming from Dave Pasiak once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll take a step aside. Hour number 2, Papa Joe coming up. LIV and PGA merger, U.S. Open, Major League Baseball, and horse racing, as well as being on the heels of Papa Joe's birthday. We're going to keep celebrating this morning because he deserves it. We'll be back right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. You know, we bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m. p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and always appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. So thank you for hanging out with us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Wherever you are around the country and the world, we're with you on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. You can go right onto our homepage of wakeupcalldt.com and pick up all of these feeds. So if you go to wakeupcalldt.com right now, you'll see the Podbean feed and you'll see the Facebook and YouTube logos. You can click on any one of those and it'll play the show live from our website, wakeupcalldt.com. So appreciate you hanging out. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com is what's popping. In hour number one, we were talking NBA with trades as well as the draft, as today is draft day, Thursday, June 22nd. And yesterday was a very important day. Yesterday just so happened to be the Goso, Papa Joe, PJ, the Italian Stallion's birthday. Papa Joe's birthday was yesterday, June 21st, and it was also the day that I unveiled my apparel and my gear to the world at 3 p.m. So I got to do that on PJ's birthday, which is very important because he's been so supportive with everything that I've done, and I love him and I appreciate him for so many things. So Papa Joe is here with us to talk LIV and PGA merger, U.S. Open, Major League Baseball horse racing. But before we do that, we want to once again wish Papa Joe a very happy 27th birthday. And we want to give him a shout out here, PJ, on just celebrating you and who you are. So happy birthday once again. Thank you for being the person that you are, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Daniel. It was a good day yesterday. Actually, a good couple of days because we celebrated early because Mary was leaving. We went to Sunday. We celebrated Father's Day and my birthday. We went to Outback Steakhouse, had a big piece of prime rib. And then Mary left, and Joe came over yesterday and brought me dinner, and that was fun. It's pretty lonely without MT, but we converse a lot on the phone and FaceTime, whatever the fancy thing is. So I'm happy. 77 years old, I guess. Getting through this accident, it's going to be a while yet, but we'll see what the future brings.
Well, and the thing is, obviously we all have gone through adversity, and you've gone through adversity, and those that know, PJ, I was in an accident here, so your continued prayers and support are much appreciated and much needed. And, but on the side with MT, is this the longest, because it'll be, a week? Is this the longest that you have been away from MT, and how long? I mean, normally you guys are together, so is this the longest period of time that you've been apart in a while?
Not really. It was about 8-10 years ago. Mary's mom was dying, Connie, and she spent about 3 weeks up there helping the girls put things together for the death and what happens afterwards. So yeah, it's been 8 or 10 years. We're very rarely apart, Daniel. Yeah. We're very rarely apart.
So what does Papa Joe do when your better half MT isn't in the house? Do you run around in t-shirt and boxers and listen to music loud? What are you doing?
My typical slime self. I'm a slime all the time. I gotta do the dishes and take out the garbage and set the alarm and get the mail and clean the house and feed the cat. There's a lot of things I gotta do, but it's worth it. My cat is sitting here right here looking at me, so she likes when I'm talking. She's probably figuring out I'm talking about her.
Yeah, that's.
I do. I read all the time, Daniel. I read all the time. In the mornings, I get up early now because of the cat, because she gets up at 6:30 and she starts eking in my ear, and you got to get up. So
Yeah.
she got to be fed, and she's got to be fed, and da 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 da. So in the mornings I take care of my normal stuff with business and check my websites and things. Then usually afternoon I read one of my books. So I'm in another series now, and I read 3-4 hours a day, really.
Yeah, so you take some time, you read, and obviously catch yourself up on a lot of different things. You've been an encyclopedia of sorts to so many different pieces, and today we have a lot of things to get into with Papa Joe. He's with us every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, if not a little bit longer. And there's a lot of things on the plate between golf, horse racing, and baseball. So we'll start with the U.S. Open. I was talking with you about it, and I mentioned it on the show here before. My dad looked at me as we watched the U.S. Open on Father's Day, and he said, "Now, who names their kid after a hotel?" And Wyndham Clark being the winner of this, Wyndham Clark comes up. John Rahm didn't have a great outing. We saw that Scheffler down the stretch, just had a rough last day. Fowler, which some people were hoping would win. I think my dad was one of those people. He ends up not coming through with it. Rory McIlroy makes enough mistakes where that really close quarters between him and Clark ends up being on the side of Clark, who really just continued to slam the ball and send it out there and take care of business. So we saw a bunch of these names. Dustin Johnson didn't have a good outing. So there's a lot of these, big time names that kind of fell down the board to 17th or 27th or, wherever that may be outside of the top 10 or lower down. And at the end of the day, it's Wyndham Clark at the top of the heap. So what are your thoughts on the fact that the John Rahms and the Dustin Johnsons and some of these, big names of the game, and I believe Sergio Garcia as well, did not have great outings, and Wyndham Clark is yet another non-household name to a bunch of people who is now a U.S. Open champion?
When these guys play the major championships, they always have to play what we call a track that is hard. U.S. Open courses are really set up to be very difficult. In this case, Los Angeles was not difficult. It was awful. It was a terrible golf course for the selection for a U.S. Open. In saying that, all the players have to play the course as it is. So some guys felt that it was unfair, and some guys felt, I got to play it, so I'll do the best I can. You still got to hit the ball. You still got a good ball on the green. You still got to chip. You got to putt. Got to get it in the hole. There's two rules in Daniel. There's two rules in golf, Daniel. Play the course as it lies and put the ball in the hole. There's no other rules. So, these guys did a fair job. I didn't much like the course myself either. Too many blind shots. Too much luck involved. When you're dealing with a U.S. Open course, whether the PGA or the Masters, you know what you're going to get with the Masters. It's difficult. You got to hit the right shots. You got to keep the ball in the fairway. You got to get the ball in the green and hope you can make a couple putts. That's what Ricky Fowler did for the first couple of days. Unfortunately, he I don't want to say the word choked, but he regurgitated a little bit there the last day. Wyndham Clark, to his credit, just won a couple of weeks ago. Wyndham Clark is not a name that's unfamiliar, believe me, with the rest of the pros. This guy was a two-time college All-American, U.S. amateur champion. This guy is the real deal. And it was just a matter of time before he put it together to win, which he did a couple of weeks ago before the Open. He hits the ball far, got a great short game, putts well, and he deservedly so. It was a good win. And from the people that understand golf, Wyndham Clark is not an anomaly. He's a good player, and he's going to win more.
And I mean, like you said, you weren't a big fan of the Los Angeles Country Club, the golf course that they played on with blind shots. And like you said, you felt like there was, too much luck involved and whatnot. Do you have a favorite course that you've seen so far this year? Like, let's just talk about 2023. Do you have a course that you just marvel at from this year?
There are some old U.S. Open golf courses that are out there that are very difficult to play. Oak Hill in Rochester's one. There's one in Detroit too that's real hard, and they pick these courses up years in advance, and it gives the people that own the golf courses and the ones that manicure it a good chance to make it a little bit more difficult before the event comes. There's a lot of good golf courses in this country, but you don't have to make them ridiculously hard or stupid. Professional golfers hit the ball a long way. They use stiff shafts. They don't use regular shafts. They move the ball from left to right. They know exactly what they're doing, what they need to do. All they got to do is execute. And it's hard to execute on a good U.S. Open golf course, which is why most of the scores at a U.S. Open are right around even par or a couple over. That's real golf right there, not what we just saw.
Well, and I mean, seeing this as you look at the leaderboard, what was the biggest surprise to you of the U.S. Open when you go back and you reflect on it, and some of these names that I had stated and whatnot, when we see Rory ended second and Fowler goes down and ties for fifth, Rahm was tied for 10th, Johnson was also tied for 10th, and Koepka was tied for 17th, and then, as I said, Sergio was tied for 27th. What were there any surprises that you had of people that you just had anticipated would have a better day, or are there surprises where you thought somebody wasn't maybe going to have a good day and they had a good day? So surprise either for the better or for the worse from the U.S. Open.
Well, there was a couple of amateurs that played really well. I think the young man Bennett played a really good rounds of golf. There's a lot of foreign players that come over to the U.S. Open, and I can't even pronounce half their names. I noticed that a couple of them were on a leaderboard. They certainly weren't in the top 10 or anything like that, but they played well, and it looks like they got game. So, they'll go back to wherever they go, to another country, or maybe they'll stay on the U.S. Tour if they can. They got to qualify for the tour. There weren't that many surprises. The only surprises I really thought was that how Fowler didn't close the deal. When you play the U.S. Open, play any golf course, actually, got to put the ball in the fairway. If you put the ball in the fairway, you got to put the ball on the green, and you got to make some putts. He made all sorts of putts the first couple of 3 days. He drained a lot of putts. He hit his approach shots real close, so putting wasn't that difficult. It's just that the final day, he couldn't put it together. Now, whether that's a mental block, it's certainly not a physical block, because he's a very blessed golfer. Wonderful swing. And he's a little guy. Hits the ball a mile, too. That surprised me more than anything. I really wanted to see him win. And I'm a big Scotty Scheffler fan, too. Scheffler's the number one player in the world. And John Ram from Spain is second. And those guys are tee to green type of players. And Scheffler's not noted as a real good putter, but I don't know how you become number one in a world without being a good putter. But he had some putting problems there on the greens. Rahm and Scheffler are really the future of the golf going forward.
Yeah, and as we see this U.S. Open obviously finish up over Father's Day and move forward here in the golf world, PJ. When we look at the PGA Tour and LIV, you and I have spoken about this before. We've spoken about LIV, the fact that they do things a little bit differently. They have teams. There's different, and the purses are bigger. They've done things in a unique way. And there's the reality that the USFL and the XFL, that they exist because, one, it's opportunity for players that don't make it into the NFL that maybe are talented enough to, but they just fell through the cracks. And, sometimes guys don't make it in the NFL because they were lied to and they were on a team that just didn't need them at that position. They didn't need that position, but the player's good enough. So, sometimes when it comes down to cuts, it's not that the guy couldn't play in the NFL or isn't talented enough to play in the NFL. So the USFL and the XFL, they start testing different things. They, put different rules in place to see what they look like. And then maybe the NFL adopts them. Well, with the LIV, there was the thought that maybe that was the case, that they're going to do things differently and maybe the PGA is outdated, so they can adopt some of them. Now we're looking at the LIV and the PGA merging together. What are your thoughts?
Well, the LIV came and took everyone by storm. They put an outline out there on what they wanted to do, an outline of how they were going to pay the purses and how they were going to try to attract professional golfers. A lot of men switched over to LIV. Some of them, like Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka, got enormous monies to do that. Koepka got $100 million, $50 million up front, and $50 million at the end of 5 years or something like that. Johnson, I think, got close to $200 million. You know, this is outrageous money. I remember one of the golfers that went over is a young black golfer named Harold Varner. You know, Harold hasn't won on the PGA Tour, and he took the dive. He says, "Listen, they're going to offer me money. I'm going to go." And he says, "I got to look for my future. If I can't make enough money on a PGA Tour, I'll go to the LIV." And that's what he did. He's playing good golf, but he's making a hell of a lot more money. So what happened is the LIV really put the pressure on the PGA. LIV came up with some scenarios where they play 54 holes. They play not too many tournaments around the world. They play team golf, which also pays money. So the players have a good chance to make a big score here. And the PGA is looking at this. Well, you know, we'll keep going. We'll do what we're doing. We pay good purses and so on and so on. Well, they capitulated is what they did. They got socked in the eye. They got socked on the chin, and they didn't know what to do. So what they started to do was to go ahead and raise their purses immediately to try to combat something that the LIV was doing. And that put them in a financial problem. The reason they merged, people thought that the LIV was going to go out of business. Now when you got $500 million in assets, the PGA looks like they were having a cash flow problem. And the reason that is because the purses they're paying now is not what they were paying last year, and they based their finances on last year. This year, they're not making any money. So they were dead in the water. And LIV threw them out a little life raft and said, "Listen, we'll bring you in, but you're going to have to do some of the things our way, too." I think the chief executive officer is going to be one of theirs, and Monahan is going to be the everyday manager, sort of like. So the PGA is probably going to adopt some of their the ideas, probably the team golf, but the PGA just didn't have it. It didn't have enough money to keep going the way we're doing it, to compete. You can't compete with people that have an endless amount of money. And those Arabs over there got a ton of money. And there's a lot of oil in this world that's coming from that area, and they make a lot of money. So the PGA bulked, and they were taken over.
Yeah, you know, and the thing about this PGA LIV merger is it has a political connection, which it seems like a lot of things do today. And 8-time major champion Tom Watson has spoken out about this. Now, he sent an open letter this past Monday to PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, who you just mentioned. And so he sends this out to him, and I would love to share what he had to say here. So he sends out an open letter to Monahan, and the conversation about this has gone way political. It's gone beyond. So this is the conversation that we're going to share here. So he said it raises, quote, unprecedented obstacles and battles of both moral and financial consequence. Now, this is coming from Tom Watson, 8-time major champion, to Jay Monahan in the open letter. He said, quote, in my opinion, the communication has been mishandled, and the process by which the tour agreed on a proposed partnership with PIF was executed. What PIF is the Public Investment Fund from Saudi Arabia. So back to the quote, that the proposed partnership with PIF was executed without due process. He also questioned whether the new agreement, was the only way to address whatever financial problems the tour has been having. He said, quote, is there a plan B? And again, what exactly is the exchange, end quote. Now, he said, I asked the tour, how is a non-negotiable point for us one day on day one, we negotiate around the next. So, looking at this right now, U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal, who I mentioned earlier this week, a Democrat from Connecticut, he requested documents related to the merger and suggested that congressional hearings could be happening. The Justice Department is starting to look into whether it violates federal antitrust laws. And we're also looking at this of families of those killed on September 11th, 2001, and Saudi Arabia's role in those attacks. So Watson, the 8-time champion, went on to say, quote, my loyalty to golf and this country live in the same place and have held equal and significant weight with me over my lifetime. Please educate me and others in a way that allows loyalty to both and in a way that makes it easy to look 9/11 families in the eye and ourselves in the mirror, end quote. So, PJ, your thoughts on this? Watson writing this open letter to Jay Monahan, and I'm going to read this last quote again. My loyalty to golf in this country live in the same place and have held equal and significant weight with me over my lifetime. Please educate me and others in a way that allows loyalty to both and in a way that makes it easy to look 9/11 families in the eye and ourselves in the mirror. Because this isn't just a merger between two companies. This isn't, AT&T and Bell Atlantic merging. This isn't Delta and Northwest. This is Saudi Arabia and the United States. So, your thoughts on that?
Oh, Tom. I think Tom's got his head in the sand, as Jack Nicklaus does and some of these other guys. The only guy that took a chance to do this was Greg Norman. All these guys are fresh, Hall of Fame golfers. I mean, Jack Nicklaus especially, and Watson and Norman. Norman was the only one to see what could possibly happen to a worldwide golf tour, and that's what he's doing. What the PGA still doesn't get is that these golfers are independent businessmen. They can go and play wherever they want to if they want to. So forget about it. The antitrust stuff, forget about it. You cannot tell a professional golfer where he can play. If you choose to be part of this tour, of course there are some rules you have to follow and a certain amount of events that you have to play in. That's all. For the other 15 events, you can go around the world and play. And LIV took advantage of some of the players that were just in a rut with the PGA. Nothing's happening. No excitement, So we play 30 rounds or 30 tournaments a year. Big deal, Same places. This way they got some excitement and a hell of a lot more money. And frankly, I don't blame any of these guys for taking the money going. What will bother me is that some of the players that really thought about it and stayed are the ones that are going to be missing out on the money. Those guys are really going to be feeling poor. I'm sure, Bubba Watson, he's over there. I mean, Tiger Woods was supposed to have been offered over $500 million to go join this tour. I don't know if that's correct, but that's what I heard, and that's what I read. So, they have an endless amount of money. They put a product together that attracted these golfers. They only had 40 of them. They only want 40 of them. They play an easier schedule, three rounds a week instead of 4. They travel, and they play team golf to make extra money. So some of the big guys, like Johnson and Koepka and so on, and Watson, are taking the money and going. And you can't blame them for that. Now, the PGA is they're trying to catch up. Now, they're going to try to muscle their way in with the new merger, and that's not going to work because the Arabs have got this thing solid. They got control of who they want now. So if they want to put some of that money over here for these guys to play a little bit more, fine. But I don't see this. I don't see the antitrust thing going anywhere. And to refer to the 9/11, that's sick. That's sick. I mean, listen, that's over with. I mean, those people were caught and they've been adjudicated, and a couple of them been killed. We can't think like that anymore. It was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. I mean, you gotta let it go, and to have that type of stigma over these guys who are nothing but a bunch of sheiks with a hell of a lot of oil money, you know. Hey, Daniel, these same guys that we're talking about in the LIV, these same guys spend billions of dollars on horse racing, as I told you last week. They go to these sales. It's not. They spend $300,000-$400,000 for these yearlings, or $2 million for a 2-year-old. They got endless amount of money. They've been doing it in horse racing for 20 years.
Yeah.
Now they're doing it with golf.
Well, I mean, and, and the thing is, when you talk about, 9/11 and whatnot, we can't, you can't say that an entire country is responsible for this. I mean, in that case, we would say that Germany, to this day, they're all Nazis, right? If that's how some people thought, they would say, okay, well, you can't do any work with Germany because everybody in Germany is a Nazi. Everybody in Saudi Arabia is a terrorist. To say those statements, those blanket statements, nothing in society has ever come, nothing good has ever come out of society when you blanket an entire group of people or an entire nation. I mean, there's things in America that we've done wrong, and I don't want to be held responsible. So, well, Americans had slaves, so everyone living in America is a bad person. Hey, wait a minute. I never had a slave. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not connected to that. So, the whole blanket, that's something like that you were going off of, I believe, of, okay, things happened, and 9/11 was one of the worst things ever in the history of mankind. Can you literally sit here today and say everyone living in Saudi Arabia, the babies living in Saudi Arabia, are also responsible, and all of the leaders are responsible? Who was in place at the time? So, I mean, that's something that, I feel like when you group people and have blanket policies, it's a tough thing. Now, dealing with Saudi Arabia and dealing with other countries with something that is so special to America and to our pastime, I can understand there's concern, and you want to make sure that you do things right, and you need to have the best lawyers fine-tooth combing these legal documents. But, I asked the people, I said, are you concerned with Saudi Arabia's connection to the United States as a result of the merger between PGA and LIV? And it's 50-50 right now on Twitter. You could vote in the poll right now. Twitter @CallDT, that's CALLDT. It started out that most people said, no, I'm not concerned. Now it's 50-50. So a little update on what we were talking about before. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, aka PIF, Governor Yasir Al Rumayyan, and I hope I said it right, and LIV Golf CEO Greg Norman have all been asked to, on July 11th of this year, testify at a U.S. Senate hearing. Now, that Senator Richard Blumenthal, the Democrat from Connecticut, seems to be leading the way. He said he wants to, quote unquote, uncover the facts. He said that the hearing would, quote, it would look at, quote, what the Saudi takeover means for the future of this cherished American institution and our national interest, end quote. Now, the companies have agreed to combine their commercial operations and rights into a new yet to be named for-profit company. Now, Monahan will be the chief executive of this company. Al Rumayyan, who is also Newcastle United chairman, would be the chairman of the company. Now, the controversial merger plans led to Monahan facing calls to resign his role as head of the PGA Tour at a, quote, intense and heated, end quote, players meeting before the Canadian Open. One of LIV Golf's strongest critics, Northern Ireland's Rory McIlroy, admitted the merger will ultimately, quote unquote, be good for golf. Monahan is taking a leave of absence as he recuperates from what's being called a medical condition. Blumenthal, who chairs the Senate's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, stated, quote, Americans deserve to know what the structure and governance of this new entity will be, end quote. So Blumenthal has really taken it upon himself to, get heavy into this. There's supposed to be now a Senate hearing, allegedly on July 11th of this year, and we're going to see the PGA Tour, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, and LIV Golf represented. I mean, did I ever think I'd see Greg Norman in a Senate hearing? Probably not. I never thought I'd see Mark McGuire there either. So, I think the Senate has bigger things to do. I definitely think if the national government is looking at people's connection and money to other countries, there's plenty of other people to investigate right now. But they find this, and Blumenthal, like I said, he's the name I keep reading in all these different articles. He seems to be the front runner of putting the PGA, LIV, and DP World Tour merger on the stake right now, and to make them testify in front of the United States Senate and explain themselves, essentially.
Now, it seems like that it's nonsense. Let me put it this way. The same people that are investing in golf, I told you, are invested heavily in thoroughbred racing, not only in this country but around the world. They spend billions of dollars on their horses. Why aren't those people chastised in the breeding industry? Why? Because the breeders say, hey, come and spend your money. I don't care who I sell it to. I don't care. If you want to give me $2 million for this 2-year-old, take her for $2 million. And that's the outlook that the thoroughbreds have. Now, it's the same deal. It's the same deal, only a little bit more complicated. So if you're not going to chastise, or you're not going to, shall we say, segregate the Arabs from buying horses to race in our country, then they ought to leave them alone with golf. So it's apples and apples and oranges and oranges. I don't know. I think it's unnecessary. I think they just let the two entities duke it out and see what type of format they can come up with. Then present it.
Yeah.
Present it to the players and say, is this going to be acceptable for us?
Right.
Yes or no? I mean, it will or it will not. If it's not, then the same guys are going to be going around the world playing for the Arab money, making a hell of a lot more than our players here. It's unfortunate. And I'll guarantee you some of those players are kicking themselves for not taking the money.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's the issue, is how do we compensate, right? To when the PGA Tour said, hey, if you go to LIV, you're going to lose your membership. You can be in 4 of our events, but that's it. And you're not considered part of the PGA Tour if you go over to the LIV. And a bunch of people said, okay, I'm going to take the money. And then other people said, you know what? I'm not going to leave. I don't want to lose my membership. Or, I don't want to, for whatever reason they said it. Oh, that, the timing doesn't make sense. The scheduling doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for my family, whatever it may be. But for those like you've brought up that didn't take the opportunity, what's going to happen now? Because the guys that took the opportunity have already made money, right? They made money. They're already a part of it. And when the merger comes in, these guys have already advanced themselves. So for those that didn't do the merger because of whatever reason, including the threat of the PGA taking away their membership, now they're being punished. So now you turn and look at the PGA and go, okay, you told us that if we left and went to LIV, we're no longer a part of you. And now you're going to merge with the company that you said we were going to get punished for. So you can work with them, but we can't work with them. How does that make any sense? It's hypocrisy at its easiest form and on a grand scale, and you cost us money. Your hypocrisy cost us money. How does the PGA Tour respond to the players saying, because you're a hypocrite, you hit my bank account?
That's right. I mean, that's exactly right. So it's I stated earlier, it's all nonsense. The money's going to be there for these guys if they want to go over there, if they want to change. I'm curious to see what the framework is going to be when they really meet and try to put down numbers and see what happens. If the Arabs want to influx our tour with their money, hey, that's great. That would probably even the playing field a little bit. But they may not want to do that. These guys are very, very shrewd businessmen. They don't do things in a rush. They're not dumb. They're very smart. You don't think they got all the billions over there by just sitting on their hands. No, they know what they're doing. In a strict business sense, they're brilliant. And so let's leave it at that.
Yeah. Just hypocrisy. You can't work with them. A couple months later, we're going to work with them. Makes no sense. We'll take a step aside for a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. When we come back, Papa Joe and I will shift to baseball and horse racing before we round out our conversation this morning where sports meets life inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And we appreciate you being here as always.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
To Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We're talking about the PGA LIV merger and the fact that this has now become, to some people, a political crisis, a national crisis, all kinds of stuff. You know, to the players that didn't make the decision to move, they lost a bunch of money, left a bunch of money on the table, with the threat of the PGA taking away their membership. So we're just living in a very strange world where the PGA was like, you better not go work with them. A few months later, we're going to go work with them. So it's just, it's the sense of it all, which doesn't make sense. But as I said, one of the biggest sins in America today, wherever you look, is hypocrisy. So with that being said, we will shift over into baseball, another nation, another one of our nation's pastimes. And baseball doesn't have to deal with any of this. There's not too much drama in baseball except for wins and losses. The Mets are struggling. The Yankees are struggling. Yankees fans are trying to figure out why these guys, if one gets a hit, why nobody else can get them farther and get them on base and get them moving around those bags so they could come home and give them a run. So the New York fans are getting a little bit frustrated, and baseball continues to move closer and closer to its all-star break. PJ, what are your thoughts?
Well, I got my rundown. I might as well do my rundown while I'm talking.
Let's do it.
Try to go slower because sometimes I rush through it. But there's a lot to say. I mean, there's some really good dynamics that are happening in baseball right now. Some really good winning streaks that are put on by some teams. It's really getting really, really serious here. Let's start with the AL East. Tampa Bay has a 52-25 record. Baltimore is 5 games behind. The Yankees are 9.5 games behind. Now, listen to that, folks. Yankees are 9.5 games behind. They don't have pitching outside of Garrett Cole. All of their big sluggers like Judge and Stanton, they wind up injured all the time. How do big guys like this get injured swinging a bat or running in the field? I don't get it, you know. And it seems like that the Yankees have made some poor decisions. They got some really good young ball players that are playing now, but you know, are you gonna ride them into the playoffs? You can't do that. They just don't have the experience. Well, anyway, let's go to the Central. The Twins are 37-38. It's pitiful. The leader in that division's not even playing 500 ball. Yeah. Cleveland's 1 game behind. The Tigers are 4 games behind. I saw the Tigers and the Rays play a good series last week. The Tigers got some decent ball players. They may sneak into this thing, but you know, this division just doesn't go anywhere for me. In the West, we got Texas at 46-28. The Astros, who are the favorites, are 5.5 behind. My Angels are 6 games behind. And the Angels, it's still a quandary for me. I still don't understand them, how they're playing and how they're doing their business over there. They're just not putting the right pieces in place. They're trying to get better pitching. Well, just a couple of years ago, I told you that they had in the college draft, in the amateur draft, they had picked 15 consecutive pitchers. Now I'm waiting to see those kids flower and come in. Let's hope so. Mike Trout's in a miserable slump. Ohtani's doing his thing. I'll get that up later. But Texas and Houston probably going to battle it out, as much as I hate to say that. In the National League East, Atlanta's 47-26. They got it all. They got pitching and home runs. They're probably going to have 5 or 6 guys that are going to hit more than 20 home runs this year. Awesome. Miami's six games back. Philadelphia's 9 games back. Those guys aren't going anywhere. And where are the New York Mets? Even below that. I saw Mike Scherzer pitch the other night. We pitched 7 innings, gave up a couple of hits, 1 run, looked good. The next night I watched Verlander. He got bombed by Houston. Verlander's not pitching well at all. And they need Verlander and Scherzer to right the ship and get them into the postseason. Those 2 guys are horses. Now, you know, they're in their late 30s, but, you know, you're paying them hundreds of millions of dollars. They got to perform. So we'll see what happens. The Central Division, the good feel-good story here is Cincinnati is 40-35. Cincinnati is on an 11-game win streak. Milwaukee's 1.5 games behind. The Cubs are 3.5 behind. This, I thought, was going to be a blasé deal, something that Milwaukee could walk through. Cincinnati's got some real good players. They got probably one of the best players coming up now. His name is De La Cruz. He can do it all, run hits for power, steals bases. He's a joy to watch. They have a lot of excitement in Cincinnati, justifiably so. Let's go to the West. Arizona, 45-30. They lead the pack. San Francisco is 2.5 back. San Francisco is on a 10-game winning streak. They've come up ahead of LA. LA's 3.5 behind. So now we got a 3-way battle, although I hate to say it, Daniel. I just don't think Arizona's going to hold up. And I think Los Angeles eventually will get there. But San Francisco's showing a little muscle there with a 10-game hitting streak. A lot of fun. Let's go to the hitting and pitching. American League. The batting leader is Austin Hayes from Boston. I don't know anything about Austin. I had to look him up. He's hitting .323 because Baltimore's playing so well. Bo Bichette from Toronto is hitting .317. And Yoshida from Boston, I've seen him play. He's hitting .308. Good hitter. Home runs, Ohtani's got 24 leading it. Judge has got 19 in second place. RBIs, Devers from Boston, Garcia from Texas, and Ohtani again are leading with 58. They're all tied with 58. Let's go to the National League. Arias is hitting .398. I know everyone wants him to hit .400, but it ain't going to happen. He'll be lucky to hit .350, which ain't bad, by the way. Ryan Lacuna from Atlanta's hitting .327. Freddie Freeman hitting .323. He went yard last night against Ohtani. I'll get to that later. Home runs, Alonso's 23. Solder from Miami's got 21. Matt Olson's got 21 from Atlanta. RBIs, Albies from Atlanta's got 53. There's Olsen again from Atlanta's got 52. Linder and Alonso got 51 each from the Mets. The Mets can't expect Linder and Alonso to carry them too if the big pitchers don't do it either.
Yeah.
We got McClanahan's got 11 wins from Tampa. This kid's unbelievable. I saw him pitch the other night. Pitched 7 innings, gave up 3 hits, shut him out, struck out 11. He's super. Eovaldi from Texas has got 9 wins. Garrett Cole from the Yankees has 9. McClanahan got a 2.12 ERA leading it. Cole's at 2.64, and Baldy's at 2.80. Good pitching. National League, got one man standing out right now. It's Marcus Stroman from the Cubs. Used to be with the Rays, or not the Rays, but the Blue Jays. He's got 9 wins. He's got the ERA of 2.28, which is both high and low in the league. Gallen, Kelly, and Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw's got 9 wins. He's got a 2.72 ERA. And my 2 favorite subjects to talk about always is Ohtani and Trout. They're going in opposite directions and are on the same team. I don't know what's happened to Trout. He's in a serious slump. And the pitchers that are pitching him with fastballs are getting him out. It used to be his...
Oh, and we lost Papa Joe here for a second, so let's bring him back on here. He's talking about Ohtani and Trout, and we lost PJ momentarily, so let's bring him back in to the show if we can here. And we seem to be having an issue bringing him in, so hopefully we can get him back here on the broadcast and here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Speaking on the baseball world, and we'll see what we could do here with Papa Joe as we continue our conversation in baseball and get him back here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We appreciate you being with us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Of course, appreciate you with all of that, as well as being with us live on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. And we seem to be just having a connection issue here with Papa Joe as we're able to bring him in, and then we lose him here for a second. So, PJ, can you hear us?
You there?
Yep, we got you. So, you were talking about where things are with 2 players on the same team going in 2 different directions with Ohtani and Trout. So go ahead from there.
Yes, Mike Trout's only hitting 250. He's got 15 homers and 39 RBIs. Not the Mike Trout that I thought that I would see this year. He got through some injuries last year. Toward the end of the year, he started knocking the hell out of the ball, and I don't get it. The good pitchers are getting him out with fastballs, and that used to be his staples. And when he flips it right over and you got Ohtani, got 24 homers and 58 RBIs, he's hitting 292. There's a very good chance that this kid got a really good chance of maybe getting the Triple Crown. I mean, it's a little thin right now, but he's 6-3 as a pitcher, 3.13 ERA. Last night, the Dodgers played the Angels. Ohtani pitched 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 run, struck out 12. And lost the game. And lost the game because Freddie Freeman hit a home run with him. So that's it in a nutshell, Daniel. A lot of things happening. Are you there?
Yeah, so I mean, as we look at this, like you talk about Mike Trout and Ohtani and where they are, I mean, you and I have had this discussion before, PJ. We know that Ohtani is going toward a mega contract. We know that the money's going to be coming in for him in droves. Now, we felt this way before this season even happened. So to see Ohtani continue to be successful, that there's an Ohtani rule with now the universal DH, but saying, yeah, okay, we have a universal DH, but if you want to be a pitcher that hits, you can, because, I mean, think about that. Major League Baseball made a new rule with the universal DH and then made a subset of that rule to say, if you want to, you can. And what is that for? That's the Ohtani rule, essentially, So you're so good at pitching and hitting that we give you your own rule. This guy's going to be, we knew he was going to make money coming off of last season. He's in his rookie deal. I think it's like $3 million, whatever, that he's making. We know the mega deal's coming. But Mike Trout, he's been able to hit the ball well when he's healthy, but he's gone through injury. And like you said, right now, some struggle. So with injury and struggle, Mike Trout costs a lot of money. Ohtani's going to cost a lot of money. There's other players on the roster that cost a lot of money. So what do the Los Angeles Angels do? Because they're not a playoff team. They're not a team that is typically scaring anybody, yet individually they have a lot of talent. So do they turn around and pay Ohtani and try to move Trout even though he's got a mega contract? Or what do they do? Because I would imagine that there's going to be 29 franchises looking at Shohei Ohtani that aren't named the Los Angeles Angels when this season is over. And I'd love to get your take on it because this guy is only adding zeros to his paycheck at this point.
This is, we're watching history, really. I mean, he's an extraordinary ball player. There's nothing that Los Angeles can do right now. They can try to talk to his representatives, which they may do. Maybe they'll try to trade him, which is impossible. I don't think anyone's going to. I mean, someone like Arizona may trade you 9 guys for Ohtani if that's the case. But I don't think he's going to be traded. And I don't really think he's going to be signed. Let's face it, over the last couple of years, we've seen some enormous contracts. Trout was one of them, Rendon, a bunch of guys that are making hundreds of millions of dollars. Garrett Cole pitching, there's a bunch of them, But all of these players are not going to be put in the rearview mirror because whoever's going to have to pay Ohtani is probably going to is looking. I can't even say these numbers. They may even get about $1 billion for crying out loud. I mean that's how ridiculous and ludicrous this is. Look at Los Angeles has got a big market over there. They got a great cable contract. They make a lot of money. They're paying their players a lot of money, even though they're not paying the right players enough money. They've traded away a couple of good kids. The center fielder Walsh, you should have never given up to him. So Ohtani would probably fit well over there, and financially it would probably make some sense. But I don't know. This is going to be a serious bargaining session, and it's probably not going to be in this country either. It's going to be in Japan.
And I mean, we'll see what's going to happen with Ohtani. But what do you do with Mike Trout? We've waited. The hype of Mike Trout is so great that when he's playing a few games a season and he's injured, people are like, yeah, but when he comes back, yeah, but when he comes back, yeah, but when he comes back. Well, now we're seeing him, and it's not the Mike Trout that it sounds like you were hoping for. So, I mean, what can you say about the Mike Trout saga? Signs the biggest contracted baseball ever when he signs it. He gets hurt. He gets hurt again. Now he's playing, but it's underwhelming. So has Mike Trout's hype passed him? Where is Mike Trout?
Oh no, he's still the best player in baseball, in my opinion. Even though he's not hitting, he'll find his way out. Guys like him. I don't know if they would take any suggestions from anyone. He's been a professional hitter for a long, long, long time. He's probably got some areas and issues to work through. Maybe his bat isn't as quick as it used to be. Maybe he should lower his bat ounce, maybe an ounce or something like that. Sometimes you swing a lighter bat, gives you a little bit more contact. I think he'll work his way out. He's eligible. Look at when he's up there, he still strikes fear in pitchers' hearts. Let me tell you, and he's eligible to rip the cover right off, and keep going for the longest time. I'm hoping I see that because he's my favorite player, and I want to see him do well. But more so, I want to see the Angels finally try to get to the postseason when you got the best player in baseball and you got best two-way player in baseball. And some others that are really good. The LA is talk about underwhelming. They're the one underwhelming. Trout is certainly in a slump, but one guy's not going to carry a team. Well, Tommy's carrying them right now.
Well, we look at it, in the the Mike Trout question of what's going on. Now, he's spent all of his 13 seasons with the Los Angeles Angels, and we're looking at this season, one of the worst statistical performances of his career. Outside of his rookie year, he has career lows in batting average, on-base percentage, and slugging percentage. And so, he's still now when you look at that, if you look at the numbers now, batting average is 255, his on-base percentage is 358, and his slugging percentage is 473. And this is within the last week or so that these numbers were here, so it might be tweaked a little bit now. Now, according to Baseball Reference, he's been striking out in 28.3% of his at-bats this season, which is a decline from his strikeout rate of 22.3%. So it's a 6% difference of what's going on right now. Now, he has looking at him by the numbers, they're not terrible numbers, but he's striking out on an average of 1.23 times per game, which would be a career worst if the season ended today. So, they're saying when you're looking at his numbers and you're saying, well, his numbers are going down, it's because he's striking out more. Now, is that because he's swinging for the fences on it? Is it because, like you talked about, is his bat a little bit slower now? Just what's going on here. But he is struggling, and as of, within the last 2 weeks, giving you those numbers, there's people that go through rough stretches. But I think what the thing is that when Mike Trout's injured, people are saying Mike Trout's injured, but if he was healthy, oh my gosh, he'd be killing it. He'd be leading in every category. So when he was injured, people were defending him saying if he was healthy. But now that we're seeing him play, we're seeing like, okay, well, the numbers that we thought he would have in the years that he was injured, now he's not getting those numbers. So that's why I'm saying about the hype as opposed to what he's actually doing. Because when he was injured, people were defending him. If he's going to be out there, oh my gosh, he'd be so much better. But he has a higher strikeout percentage right now, which is going toward 30%, and striking out a little over once per game. So what are your thoughts on that part of it, PJ, that, his numbers are lower due to more strikeouts?
He'll figure it out, Daniel. He has to figure it out. And if he does figure it out, he's going to go on a tear. And we'll know it just by looking at the box scores. And I check his box scores every day. I know what he's doing. I know when he strikes out, when he walks, what he hits, when he hits, the pitches he's hitting. He's not seeing the ball very well right now. Maybe it's something visual. But there's so many things that can go wrong. It's not easy. When you're teeing up a golf ball and you hit a ball 300 yards, the ball isn't doing anything because it's sitting there waiting to be hit. But when you're a professional hitter and you got a 95-mile-an-hour fastball coming at you, those things are hard to judge. If you don't have your timing down right, if your sight isn't right, if your bat is light enough, if your reflexes are quick enough, it's not easy hitting a fastball. It's even worse trying to hit a curveball or a slider. So I think Mike will work his way out of it, and maybe he just needs more batting practice. I know he's got his own batting practice pitcher, so maybe they can work some things out. I think once we start seeing him hit the ball, if he starts hitting the ball hard, then I know things will be okay.
When you talk about hitting the ball hard, Luis Reyes, I want to go back to him for a second here. Now, they just recently blew out the Toronto Blue Jays. He went 5 for 5, brought his batting average for the season back to 400. He has 102 hits on 255 at-bats. That's 400 that he has right now. Now, his batting average was back at 400 as well on June 10th. So 12 days ago, not even 2 weeks ago, he was at 400 when he went 2 for 4 and finished at 402 on the night. He dipped to 378 as his batting average on June 14th, but he had a pair of 5 hit games that got him back there. So, this is where he's at right now. He went 5 for 5 on June 2nd and went 5 for 5 on June 16th and just went 5 for 5 on June 19th. He's only the 4th player in the history of Major League Baseball to have 3 5-hit games in a single month. And he joins Hall of Famers George Sisler, who did it in August of 1921, Ty Cobb, who did it in July of 1922, and Tony Gwynn, who did it June of 1984, which means that we have not seen a 5-hit we have not seen a 5-hit game, 3 5-hit games in a single month by any other player in baseball in almost 40 years since Tony Gwynn did it in 1984. So crazy to see that. His 400 batting average is 9th highest through 73 games since 1941, when Ted Williams hit 406 as the last player to hit 400 in a full season. So your thoughts on that with Luis Reyes?
He's a good player. I mean, there's no doubt he's a good player. He's just hot right now, and sometimes when you have these players come up and they do well, after a pitcher sees him once or twice or 3 times, they know how to get him out. So if he goes through the second half of the season doing as well as he has, then the pitchers still haven't got him figured out. If he starts going into a mini slump, which he probably will, then those pitchers probably got him figured out. So it's a tough road for him. People don't realize how difficult it is to hit a baseball. When you just look at the facts, if you hit 300 in your career, if you hit 300 over 15 years or something like that, you're going to go to the Hall of Fame. That means that you've made an out 7 out of 10 times. And that's terrible, but it isn't really, not with a baseball. You hit 300, you go to the Hall of Fame. But by the same token, you're making out 7 of the times. So,
yeah, but in looking at the trade now, Luis Reyes came to the Miami Marlins with a .316 batting average last season. He came from the Minnesota Twins in a trade that happened in January of 2023 this year that sent Pablo Lopez and 2 prospects to Minnesota. Lopez allowed 5 runs, 4 earned, in 5 2/3 innings against the Boston Red Sox on Monday, when we saw Luis Reyes go 5 for 5. And Lopez has a 4.40 ERA in 15 starts this season. So as of right now, it looks like the Marlins are winning the trade with the Minnesota Twins. Any final notes on baseball before we do a final word on horse racing?
no, not really. It's things are going to heat up, and a couple of teams are really playing great baseball. San Francisco and Cincinnati both double-digit wins in a row. So I'm looking forward to this afternoon. I wonder what I got on.
Yeah, so horse racing-wise, PJ, the last thing we're going to talk about here with Papa Joe in his normal stint every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We give you some extra time today, as we typically do. You wanted to say a couple words on horse racing because we had a conversation last week about it, and you felt like you wanted to dive into it a little bit deeper and explain a little bit more some of the thoughts you had last week. So I wanted to open that up to you.
Well, I was explaining last week how trainers train their horses and how they're overseen by veterinarians by the state or veterinarians by the track. And trainers will not put a horse in a race if the horse is injured. If the trainer thinks they can put a horse in a race that's maybe a little injured, the track vet or the state vet is going to pick it up, and they're going to scratch the horse. That's the worst thing that can happen. Horse racing is very, very difficult to win. You have to have good horses. You have to have good breeding. You have to have owners with deep pockets, because these guys cost a lot of money and they spend a lot of money. So it's not easy to do. And when I was getting into the areas of putting a horse down, being euthanized, when you see something like this happen on a track, you don't want to see it happen on a track because it's absolutely gross. It'll freak you out. The horse is sitting there on 3 legs, and his other leg is broken, is flapping. The horse that did broke down the other day at Delmont, unfortunately, with the same trainer. Nothing wrong with the courses, nothing wrong with Henning. He's a good trainer, maybe not one of the best, but he's a good average guy. Those 2 horses, it's just what we call, I took a bad step. If they take a bad step on a spindly leg, it's not going to come back. They can bust a muscle or bow a tendon or something like that, but when you take a bad step and snap a leg, you're going to die, and that's what people have to understand. Horses are not entered unless they're in peak physical condition. That's per trainer, and that's per both the state vet and the association vet. Because the worst thing you can do to handicappers is put a horse that's off, put him in a race and watch him flounder. In dog racing, we used to have what's called a grade off. If a horse or if a dog did not race well or quit himself in 5 races in the lowest possible section, which I had was D. D was the lowest grade. If that dog didn't race good in 5 starts in D, I would grade the horse off the racetrack, or grade the dog off the racetrack, which means that trainer has to take that dog. He can't race him anymore for me at my track. He's not going to go to a bigger track because he's not good enough. So what does the trainer do with the dog? I mean, what does the trainer do with the dog? Well, unfortunately, if you don't find a home for him, they kill him, and that's the sad part of what greyhound racing was going through. It's different with horse racing. They don't arbitrarily kill horses. They may in some of the other tracks around the country, the smaller tracks that just don't do any business. I remember my days at Monticello. I always used to enjoy when the Amish used to come up. They would always be very respectful because I knew what they were looking for. They're looking for horses. And he would come in and he would knock on the door and he would say, Mr. Lando, my secretary, Mr. Lando, where from? How did that? Fine. I said, that's fine. What do you need? And they said, well, we'd like to canvass the barn area. Look, we need some horses for our carriages to go back to Pennsylvania. I said, that's fine. I said, you've got my permission. The head of security will take you out there and you can walk the barn area. So they go and they'll look for horses that particularly are not doing too well, and the trainer's given up on them and don't know what to do with them. So he'll sell the horse to the Amish for $1,000 or $500, and that horse has got a new life. I mean, he's going to be a carriage holder for the Amish. And if you ever drive through Pennsylvania, you see them on the road, and they're just trotting right along. And there's plenty of those horses available at tracks, especially the ones that are not racing very well. And harness racing is a lot different from thoroughbred racing. It's not quite as brutal. It's not a savage ride like a thoroughbred. So, you got 1,100 pounds on 4 spindly legs, and they go as fast as you can. With trotters, they trot or they pace at a much slower rate. The chances of them breaking a leg are pretty minuscule compared to thoroughbred. So just the record clear, there's nothing wrong with the thoroughbred racing. It's being governed correctly. Although some of the racing commissions in the country have got to get together a little bit more. One thing you hate to see is if you're a trainer, if you're in Kentucky and you got to go to New York, well, there's different rules and regulations in New York as compared to Kentucky or Pennsylvania or Virginia, or Ohio. You got to be up on all of them. I think if the racing commissions were to get together and come up with something universal, it would help guys going from track to track. So, folks, there's nothing wrong with the thoroughbred industry. It's brutal sometimes, but it's a very exciting. And these horses are wonderful animals, that's for sure.
Yeah, you just want to see them taken care of. They give so much to the game, and you want to make sure that they have a life for themselves and a life that they deserve to be healthy and to be well, and it's hard.
Something else I want to add. There is something that there's a couple of these organizations that have formed for the retirement of horses. A lot of farms, big thoroughbred farms, have an area for retired horses. Those are the ones that can't race anymore, or maybe they got a bow tendon and they can't race up to snuff, and they can't sell them anymore. They're not going to kill them. So the owner will say, okay, we'll retire him. We'll put him in your retirement field. I'll pay for his boarding, and he can retire that way. There's a lot of that going on right now. Unfortunately, there's not enough of it because, unfortunately, some of these horses on the cheaper tracks, especially, wind up going what we call glue factories, and that's where they're slaughtered for, which is terrible. But there's a lot of activity nationwide now, putting these horses in retirement, which is great. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, it is it, and that's the thing is as long as they're taken care of, like I said, they give so much to the game. You want to make sure that what they've given. They were born to do this, bred to do this. You want to make sure they're taken care of when everything is done, and that they have a life to live, because animals can't walk up to you and tell you exactly what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And that's the tough part of all this, right? They can't just come up and say, hey, I don't want to race anymore. Hey, I'm hurting. Hey, I'm this. Hey, I'm that. So, that's the part of this where you just want to make sure they're taken care of. I do want to make a note here, PJ, and we haven't said it yet, go Gators. And we're going to say go Gators because the Gators on your birthday won over TCU 3-2, and the Florida Gators continue on here in the Men's College World Series Finals. They'll be playing in it's a best 2 of 3 series. In game 1, they're going to be on June 24th, which is my grandmother's Remembrance Day, G-Mama, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Florida will be playing against bracket winner 2. So they are sitting here waiting. Stanford's been eliminated. Virginia's been eliminated. So Florida is awaiting who they're going to be playing, and would love to just get your thoughts on that. The Florida Gators are in the College World Series. They have life, and they'll be playing in the finals here, which is very exciting, and would love to get your take on it.
Well, I've been following them all year. They got good pitching and good hitting. They got a couple of really good freshmen that throw the ball really good. They're going to play the winner of Wake Forest and LSU. They have a one game out now. LSU had to win last night to get the chance to play another one, because when you're in this series, you got to win 2 out of 3. So Gators have already clipped through theirs. They won, not easily every time, but they won. Now they're playing Wake Forest, which most of the year was number 1, and Florida was number 2 or number 3. Both of these teams, look where they wind up. They wind up maybe playing each other. LSU is no slouch. Florida probably would rather play LSU because they know them, because being in the same league. Wake Forest, they don't know anything about the hitting or the pitch or anything like that, but they do find out. So it'd be something else to watch. I would rather see Florida play LSU because they got the best baseball in the country. I mean, I don't know how many teams. I think 9 of their teams got into the playoffs this year. So that's me in the SEC, though. That's okay. Florida looks good, Daniel. Thank you.
Yeah, who would have thunk it? You're right. Florida, LSU, 2 teams we were hoping to see in the college football playoff if some things had gone right in these last couple of years, that maybe we could have saw them both. And Florida could be playing, we'll see, could be playing LSU or Wake Forest. We shall see. That's the bracket 2 winner, which will bring us into the Men's College World Series finale between Florida and somebody, Wake Forest or LSU, to crown our national champion. So I had to shout that out with PJ being a Go Gator and also being a big baseball fan. So great birthday gift for you that they won on your birthday, 3-2, and a happy birthday to you, Papa Joe, and a happy Father's Day to one of the best in the biz out there when it comes to being a dad. So from Meatball number 2 to you, I send you my love, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Take care. That coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We got one final step aside, and we'll be back right after this to wrap up the show on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbeeville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, youtube.com, facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. You can find all of these live feeds in one easy place. Go to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage, and you will find the Podbean feed that you can just click on. There's a bar there, and you'll see the YouTube and Facebook logos. Click on either one of those, and it'll bring you to all of our live feeds Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Once the shows go live, they jump to the archives. We'll be adding a bunch of stuff to the archives coming up here this week. Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Boom Play, Podchaser. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Big thanks to all of our incredible partners: Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Mother's Cupboard, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, PB&J's Lunchbox, Chick-fil-A Watertown, Avicoli's, Great Lakes Honda City, Pizza Man, and 317 at Montgomery Street, where we will have an all-new Downtown with Dan with you. Our exclusive Downtown with Dan series is filmed on-site, on location, only at 317 at Montgomery Street. The name of the location is the name of the restaurant in downtown Syracuse. Their food is incredible, unique, special. Their experience makes you feel like you're in some five-star restaurant on the rooftop of some Los Angeles or New York City building. So a 317 at Montgomery, from their service to their food to their eclectic menu that constantly is changing. It's just the plating of the food, the taste of the food, the idea and creation behind the food, to, like I said, the guest service and just the overall look. 317 at Montgomery is the place to be. And I will say that over and over again because it's true. So Downtown with Dan is the video series where I have the opportunity to test out their food. I'll be doing one of those today, and I'll be sharing it on all my social media today. So I can't wait to share that with you, and I look forward to seeing you at 317 very soon. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It is Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call, and we appreciate you being here where sports meets life. AD and DT coming to you every first and third Wednesday of each month, And second and fourth Wednesday, the Dolphin Dive, diving into the stories of student athletes, coaches, future Dolphins, and alumni. All of this is available to you by going to the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com and subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Under promise and over deliver, we have had a new series called The Road to D1, which is a portion of the Dolphin Dive. And this Road to D1 special series has involved coaches from multiple teams at Lemoyne speaking on the move, including yesterday's conversation with Joe Tessori, and of course an all-new Dolphin Dive like you've never seen it before, with some really cool basketball moments, trick shots and whatnot, and some great advice on life coming from Lemoyne College men's basketball's player Isaiah Salter and myself, Dan Tortora. So check out all of that again on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and on the Lemoyne tab of wakeupcalldt.com. For more information on your Dolphins, go to LemoyneDolphins.com. And as always, fins up. What's the buzz around the Bobcats? Well, we'll tell you. You've never had the Bobcats come to you like this. Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse's men's soccer, women's soccer, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball team coming through their inaugural season, and the upcoming esports program. Everything at Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse is exciting because I get to deal with new, like recent programs like baseball and esports, as well as national champions in men's and women's soccer, and men's and women's basketball that have both made it to the national tournament. So every one of these teams has a very unique story to tell. The coaches are tremendous, and I have been spoiled by Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse to have the personalities that we have, the stories that we have, and the incredible success, as well as getting to cover new things. You know, esports and baseball, how many times in sports do you get to cover a young and new program at a college or university? So these stories are so unique, so special, and I'm so very grateful that Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse has entrusted me to tell them. You can see them by going to our BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and searching Bobcat Buzz. And of course, staying with us on our social media and finding out when they're going to be broadcasting live here on Wake Up Call. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. And as always, go Bobcats. I want to thank you for being a part of the show here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Want to thank Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory for being awesome. Going to see them on 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York is like going to an amusement park. There's cotton candy, chocolate-dipped Oreos, chocolate-dipped pretzels, their kettle corn, their popcorn, the fantastic flavors. Their premium flavors now, like my favorite, the Elvis, which is banana flavored popcorn, topped off with Reese's peanut butter drizzle. Exquisite. And if you go there and get any one of their size tins, if you buy a tin on site, on location at Ma and Pa's, and you can get sports tins galore there. When you go out and buy it, you can go get a Mets tin, fill it up with your favorite flavors, and you get half price refills for the rest of your life. So many awesome things there. Their lemonade's great too. Ma and Pa's is a stop for your family. It's a treat any day of the week. And make sure you head out there to 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, and let them know that Wake Up Call sent you. Big time thanks to Dave Pasiak and our NBA coverage here on draft day. And I can't even believe it's draft day. So big thanks to Dave for joining me on the day of the draft. And I look forward to seeing the draft. And I look forward to the Toronto Raptors at number 13, giving me something great. And much love to my Toronto Raptors and to every team out there that's drafting tonight. Big shout out to Papa Joe. Happy birthday again. And much love to my other dad. The PGA and LIV merger, Major League Baseball, U.S. Open, and horse racing. Plenty of great conversation, as always, with Papa Joe. And a happy 77th birthday to one of the best human beings on the planet ever. Dave Pasiak, Papa Joe, love you both, and I appreciate y'all. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT, and just so you all know, the official home of all Dan Tortora broadcast media merchandise is now available And I've shared all those. I've shared that link on all of our social media. I've shared pictures of the gear for Wake Up Call, Super Powered Pop, Comic Book Trails, and Do Diz with Dan. Go and check it out on all of our social media. See the video of the site, and like you've done already, go and make a purchase. Find something you like, and I thank you in advance for supporting my company and everything that I do. I'm chasing my dreams, and I love chasing after them with amazing people by my side. So whatever you can do, there's dog clothes, there's book bags, there's golf towels, there's a ton of polos and different hats. There's Nike hats, there's pullover, a ton of pullovers, form-fitting stuff. My quote, God bless, no stress, do your best, is on the back of shirts and hoodies that we have on there. We have joggers, we have shorts. So make sure you go out and go onto the website from our social media today and get something cool for yourself, and just share it. So I do want to, you know what, I can actually share it here in our feed as well. So whatever is your fancy, like I said, we have so many different things, and we have men's and women's on there, so you could go out and find whatever fits you and is good for you. Mic'd up, geared up is what we say. And like I said, all of our brands are on there, so make sure you go out and get it. So check out our merch, and I'm going to put it up here right now on the feed so you have the site. So go and check out our merch today and make a purchase. And I appreciate it in advance, and thank you to everybody that already has. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll talk with you all soon from Downtown with Dan at 317 at Montgomery Street. I look forward to seeing you there in downtown Syracuse, and God bless. No stress. Do your best. We'll talk soon.